Hello everybody, I am Widu. Welcome back to my cosplay workshop for part 3 of the Velkhana Armour set build from Monster Hunter Icebourne. Last episode we started the leatherwork process but didn't quite get done because the episode was getting long. This episode we're just going to be continuing the leatherwork, mainly that this will cover the elbow pad embossing and also the stitching process of the leather as well. Without further ado, let's get crafting! Before we begin, let me do a really quick plug to my website, akwidu.com, where you can find my cosplay books and patterns, gallery, and a free tutorial archive, and my Patreon. Pledge any amount you like and automatically get any tutorials and patterns that come out of a project, and access videos early. Thanks for letting me plug. Enjoy the video. So here's the elbow pad, which I'm also going to do out of leather, and I've split the elbow pad into 2 panels, and then I'm going to copy it onto the leather, which eventually will get embossed and then stitched together into that kind of bulbous shape. Next bit I'm going to emboss is the elbow pad, and everything is already swivel knifed in, so all I have to do is start with a line stab and smack the basic lines in. I'm going to start with the lined rectangle stab, line it up, smack it down, and repeat to cry. For my personal preference, I find that I get the smoothest lines if I go for some hard smacks at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kind of like that. So that gets me down to the depth I want for the details. And then I go back over the same line with some really light taps. So what that does is just smooths out any of the stamp marks that I make with my mallet. And then I go back over the edge of the details with the stamp, just like stroking it down, just to smooth out any remaining stamp marks there, just to make everything really nice and smooth and seamless. And then you just repeat all the way down the line. Easy. So once I'm happy with all of the embossed details here, I can start marking the holes where I will need to open for sewing this leather piece together. And I've got this little tool here, which is just like a spiky wheel that is attached to this tool. And I've already marked out the line, what that I need to follow along the leather piece here. And all I need to do is just take the tool, line it up with the line, press it down nice and firmly, and then just roll it along the line that I've marked out already. And what it does is just poke a marking onto the leather that indicates where I will need to open the thread hole with an awl later on. Ta-da! So that is all the holes marked out, and all I really need to do next is grab an awl, which is this spiky guy here, and take a mallet and open each of these holes by hand. But for now, this piece is pretty much done. Yay! Rightio, once we have painstakingly opened all of the stitch holes by hand, it is time to stitch the elbow pad together. I've actually conveniently done one already. I'm just going to quickly show you guys how I did it. Here is a roll of waxed thread that I'm going to use to stitch the elbow pad together. And here are two leatherworking needles. So there are these thick ass needles that are not very sharp at all, so they're designed to go through the stitch holes that I've opened by hand, and they're not that sharp because they're designed to go through a pre-opened hole and not to stab through the leather and damage the surface. With the wax thread, you want to be quite precise with how much you portion out, because wax thread is quite expensive and quite precious, so you don't want to waste too much. So my personal guide for how much to portion out is to take the thread, go along with the length of your piece, double it, and a half, around 3/4 or a half. I like to go just a little bit more just in case I don't have enough. So that's how I portioned out this piece of wax thread here. And now we're just going to thread through both needles like that, and like that. Once you've threaded it through, you can twist the thread together, and because it's wax thread, it's going to stick together like this. So when you're pulling the thread through the holes and yanking it through, the thread won't come out of the needle hole at all. So we'll do that to the other side as well. Squeeze it, twist, so the thread merges together, sticks together. Yeah, like that. So we have our needles ready. It's time to sew. It is very simple to sew leather. All you really need to do is stab that first needle through the first hole of your line, and then put both needles together, pull the thread through so the thread is sectioned into two exact halves, and then from here you take the first needle that's on top, poke it into the next hole, pull it through. Careful not to pull the other needle along so that the thread is still half, okay? So from here we turn the piece over and we take the previous needle that is still on the first hole and we catch it up with the second hole, like that. So we poke it through, turn it back over, and we pull it all the way through. So now we've got the first stitch, nice and simple, ta-da, like that. So from here we go again, starting from the top needle, poke it into the next hole, pull it through, turn it over. From here, the needle that's behind catches up, pull it through, pull it tight, and repeat till cry from here. And from here, there's nothing too interesting to say, other than go as slow or as quick as you like to. Just get yourself into a rhythm. At first it could be quite tedious, but I have found that the more I've done it and the better that I've gotten at it, the more relaxing this process becomes. One thing I do want to say about this though, it is quite tempting to go all the way through to the end of the line with one needle and then catch up with the second needle afterwards, because it seems like a quicker process. But avoid that, because it does show up in how your stitches line up, so it can go quite like zigzaggy and jagged if you do it all the way through with one needle and then catch up with the other needle. So I highly recommend sticking with the rhythm. Go one after the other. So the sequence I like to go is top needle first, go to the next hole, bottom needle catches up, and then that bottom needle becomes the top needle, and then so the top needle goes to the next hole, and so on and so on and so on. It just gives you the neatest result. That's what I found anyway. So I highly recommend that. Ta-da! So we have reached the end of the line here, and what we do at the end of the line is we take this thread and we pull it through for a back stitch. So one stitch to the previous hole, and I actually have to take the thread out of the needle and then re-thread the needle, because I have come quite close with the length of the thread. So the needle ends up being a little bit too long for the amount of thread that I've got left over by the end. So if you don't want to do that at the end of yours, you can portion just a little bit more thread. So once I've done that one back stitch, I'm just gonna fiddle with the thread into a double knot. So there's nothing too fancy here, just a knot and then another knot. Sometimes I like to do just a triple one, just to be, you know, extra sure that it's not going to come undone, but a double is usually sufficient. And then the next bit is really cool. It's my personal favorite because you get to smack something. So once you've done the double knot, you take a mallet and you smack the knot like that, and it splats it into this flat ball of wax, so that just grips all of the thread together. And then you can leave the excess as is, or you could trim it down just a little bit just to make it a little bit more satisfying. And that is one stitch line done. Yay! And now we just gotta continue through all of the rest of the lines that we have designed for this elbow pad. Next I'm gonna, 3, 2, 1. Next I'm gonna attach these little petals to the main piece, and the stitch is exactly the same. The only difference is that we are now poking through 2 layers of leather instead of 1. Yay! That's the last petal is getting attached now. So we are about to be ready to assemble the entire thing through the middle seam. Ugh, so tight! Giggity! Ugh, there we go. We love a tight hole. Actually, I don't. When I'm stitching, I want them loose! Ta-da! Yay! So the basic stitching on the bottom and also on the side is all done. So the petals are all attached now, stitched nice and solid, so there is nothing that can pull them apart now. So the final part of this elbow bit is to assemble the curve by stitching these two lines together. And how we're going to do that is exactly the same as before, using the wax thread and the 2 needles, except this time our stitch is going to be a crisscross, like this. So the concept is exactly the same. So poke those 2 needles through the first 2 holes of the line, pinch the 2 needles together, and then pull the thread all the way through. So you've got even portions of thread on both needles. Yeah. Then from here, really simple. Left first or right first, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you always do the same side first, so it's consistent, and then right goes to the left. Yay! Just like that. Pull it tight. First stitch done. Yay! And then we repeat. On the underside, doesn't really matter which one you go first, but I'm always going to try and do left first. And then the other needle goes across, makes a crisscross at the bottom as well. There we go. Nice. So we're back to the beginning. Repeat till cry. Left side first, goes across. Pull it tight. Right side goes to the left. Again, left to right. Right to left. And repeat till cry. And this is what it looks like so far. We're going to continue all the way up here until the split happens, and then the crisscross is going to bind the 2 halves of the elbow together and make that curve shape. Ta-da! We have reached the end of the line. So just like all the other lines that we've done, we're going to do a couple of secure stitches right at the end to make sure that nothing falls apart. So for this one, I'm actually just going to do a couple of stitches on top, just across. It's going to be more visible than the other back stitches that we've done, but I do like just having a horizontal stitch right at the end of my crisscrosses. I just think that it looks pretty good, like that. Yay! Alright, so double and a triple knot. I always like to triple knot just to be extra sure that it's not going to come undone. So that's done. Now, because this is a more of a 3-dimensional kind of piece, it's probably going to be harder to smack the knot like we've done the other times, but I'm going to give it a go anyway, see if we can give it a smack. And not get my finger. There we go. Got it. Nice. Ta-da! 2 elbow pieces all done. Yay! And I've just done the same leather stitching onto the chest details as well. Aren't they pretty? I think it's pretty. And I'm pretty proud of it. And that is all of the Velkhana Armour leatherwork that I have done so far. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a little bit more as I progress on to the other parts of this armor, but I'll see. For now, this is all I've done so far. Yay! Ta-da! Yay! So after lots of hammering, lots of stitching, and oh my god, lots of calluses on my fingers, 1 piece, 2 pieces, and 3 pieces of the main armor has been completed out of leather. Now I just need to antique dye the leather surface to accent all of the details before very carefully coloring it silver. But I don't have any of those supplies at the moment, so in the next episode we're actually going to start making the ice portion of the armor, which is something that I have been looking forward to starting ever since the beginning of the project. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that one as well. So with that, it brings me time again to credit time! Thank you so much to all of my amazing supporters on Patreon and Twitch, including everybody who are subscribing on $5 and above. And special thanks to my $15 and above pledgers who are Chad, Just Believe, Cedary, Anna, Messa, Sylvia, April, and Natalie. Thank you so much for your love and support always. You guys make all of these videos, tutorials, and my work possible, and make it possible for me to dedicate more time to making these videos for you guys. Thank you so much once again, and I will see you in the next episode. Meanwhile, stay crafty.